It's a 2023-2024 season preview of the Orlando Magic next on The Dime.
You are now listening to The Dime with Josh and Quab, your go-to NBA podcast. Subscribe on Apple, follow on Spotify, and be sure to hit up the YouTube channel for video content. And now your hosts, Josh and Quab.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Dime. Today, we preview a team with so much potential. It is a 2023-2024 Orlando Magic, and we are doing it with the host of the Close-Up Magic podcast. Everybody, please welcome back to The Dime for, I don't know if you count the draft episodes, this might be the fifth time, but it's Stephen Cameron.
They count.
It's been a few times. What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. If you want to follow Stephen and his podcast, it's the Close-Up Magic. He has a YouTube channel dedicated to the Orlando Magic. He's been on the show. I think this is the third episode, maybe fifth time if you're counting draft episodes. And in one of those draft episodes, he had the first pick and he chose Paolo Banchero before it was rumored that he was going to the Magic. At the time, they were going with Jabari Smith, and Stephen was like, nope.
Josh, I got to tell you something, man. That was like the one time I've ever gotten something right. The one and only time. So, I hold that so much. And the fact that I have it, on record early with you was like, whoo.
Yep.
Made me feel great on life.
Yeah, I am your witness. You were calling it before
Nope.
it was all about Jabari Smith. And I don't know if everyone remembers, but it changed last minute. But Stephen had it the whole time. You can listen to the mock draft episode where he picks Paolo in our mock draft, which is...
I think you even messaged me and was like, you had it, or something like that. Yes, I did. Needs, baby.
Yes, sir. All right, let's get into a season preview of the Orlando Magic 2023-2024. Let's start with Paolo Banchero, because to me, I think you found your star. You found your guy, man. That's what it seems like, at least. I know it's early, but he had one of the best rookie seasons of all time. Where do you measure that up? I know it's hard to be like, well, it matches up with LeBron's and Melo's, but looking at it objectively, where do you think his rookie season ranked, and how excited are you to have him? Which is a dumb question, but I would like to hear from Magic Man.
Okay, so I'm not going to say it's the greatest rookie season of all time. He had a solid 2-month stretch where he couldn't hit a 3-pointer to save his life. Yeah. I think his percentage dropped down to it's 6% on a 2-month stretch. It was awful. And his scoring wasn't the most efficient all the time either. There's definitely some areas he can improve on. But I mean, he did have some insane numbers. Yeah. He did have some first rookie ever to do this since LeBron, or first rookie ever to do this period, in different categories. And man, I'll tell you what, I feel great as a Magic fan. I feel great as someone who likes to create Magic content. Yeah, we got us one.
Got you
and
one.
That's what really matters. I don't know if it's the top 5 best rookie performance of all time or whatever. I don't care. We got us one.
That's right.
And that's what matters. No, man, but his rookie year was really special. We haven't had a player average 20 points per game since Stephen Francis, the franchise. And that was a long time ago, and some people don't even realize he was on the Magic for a season and a half. Okay? A rookie to do that is pretty darn special. And he was also a rookie that got selected to join the U.S. Main team in FIBA. So it's I don't think you could ask for a better first 12 months of being an Orlando Magic player.
After you guys drafted him, I remember during Summer League, I had texted Josh. I was like, because I think Josh was in Vegas. I was like, do you realize how big he is in person? Because he's legit all 6'10", but he moves like a guard and all that. When you look at him, what do you think his ceiling is?
That is a hard question to answer. But ceiling, when he's 27, 28 at his peak, I mean, he should be a top 10 player in the league easily, I think. Sure. Yeah, I mean, his shot should grow into form. Now, he lost, he ended the season last year at 29% from 3, right? But what didn't get reported loudly until the end of the season, we didn't even know about it till the end of the season. He was dealing with a nerve damage during that really bad slump with his shooting. So, if he gets it shot up even to like just league average from three, 36, 37%, that's a 3-level score for you, that, from his rookie year had 20 points per game. He's got the body to just bully anyone. Offensively, he should be able to do whatever he wants on the court as long as he doesn't have too many like injuries to stop him from being able to do what he should do on the basketball court. He's physical. Dude, I think he weighs like 250 pounds at 6'10". He's got footwork like a guard. He can pass like a guard. And then he can bang with the bigs down in the paint, So offensively, he could be pretty special. Easily I would think a top 10 player. I think where it's really going to matter for him is the defensive side, right? He's got good court vision. He can pass really nicely. That's only going to improve as he gets a little bit more experience with the ball in his hand and decision-making at the NBA level. But defensively, can he become a two-way player that is not only a force on the offensive side, but can also be a force on the defensive side, or at least an above average defender for his, position on the wing and sometimes even in the paint with the centers and the bigs. I think if he can get that defense up where we saw flashes of it, particularly in FIBA ball, and even a bit last year, he's going to be special. And I feel comfortable saying he's going to be a top 10 player in the NBA one day. I'm biased. He could potentially even be a top 5 player at some point.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? You tell me.
I think it's hard to tell right now. I think top 10 is safe. Top 5, it depends. I don't know, because you have Giannis, you have Jokic. You're talking a lot of different players right now who are playing like at their peak. So, and then it's also hard to predict the future. But I don't think top 10 is out of the realm of possibility for sure. I mean, he had one of the best rookie seasons ever. That's why I opened up the show asking you that, because I think his rookie year went under the radar. I don't think a lot of people really understand how well he played this year. I mean, and you started off the show saying like, despite the fact he went cold, even with all of that, he still like had a top 5 rookie season of all time. So imagine when all that stuff comes together. So and
to be fair, I do think when he gets to that level, it's pretty impressive now, but I'm talking prime Paulo when he's, 6-7 years from now.
Yeah. Perennial all-star, possibly MVP candidate if the Magic are definitely in it. I wanted to ask you though, because you have found that guy to build around. Now comes the pieces, right? The number 2, the number 3, and you have a piece right now in Franz Wagner that I think is very interesting because he's showing a lot of potential as well. But the jury's still kind of out if he can be that number 2 or number 3 on what playoff team, contending team, whatever it is. But these are the questions, or the answers we're gonna find like coming this season. What do you think about Franz Wagner? Do you think he could be that number 2 or number 3?
Absolutely. And for anyone who didn't watch FIBA, that there's your answer right there. The question shouldn't be out on him anymore. It should be, yes, he can be a solid number 2, number 3 at bare minimum.
Okay.
For this team. He is, another he just ended his sophomore year, helped lead Germany to the FIBA gold, alongside Dennis Schroeder. He was like just a hair under 20 points per game last year. Can space the floor, elite finisher at the rim. The one thing on his offensive side that needs to improve is it'd be awesome if he had a little bit more of a mid-range game. He's basically like an outside shooter or an elite finisher at the rim, right? He started to gain a little bit of like some nice like Dirk style fadeaways in the paint, or sorry, in the mid. But he doesn't really have like a pull up off in the mid range, and it'd be nice for him to like start working towards that.
He's a walking analytics chart.
He is like walking analytics. His efficiency around the rim is insane. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head right now, but like they're ridiculous. And his finishing package is so ridiculous. He can float it left, float it right, up and unders, either direction. He'll dunk on just about anyone too. Yep. He's like fearless. He's a way above average defender. He's smart. He's a good passer. I think really the only reason why the question is out on him with the rest of the league, other than like Magic fans, is because people just haven't watched the Magic enough.
I agree.
And like it doesn't help that they started the year like 5-20 last year and had, I think, the first or second most injuries in the entire league again for like the third or fourth year in a row. So when this team actually gets healthy and there's like some consistency in the roster, I think that's when people are gonna be like, oh damn, yeah, Franz isn't just good in FIBA, he's also really fucking good in the NBA.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have 2 6'10" guys that are between 225 pounds in Franz and 250 in Paolo that can dribble, pass, shoot, and defend. Like,
That's scary.
what more do you want? And both of them averaged basically 20 points per game.
I think the one thing I actually really like about Franz, like despite all his talent, is that he's a little bit crazy. Just a tad, like he got a little bit of like that edge where he never backs down from anybody, and you need that. You need that in a player. Like I think he could be a possible like number 2 complimentary player to Paolo moving forward.
Totally. And I agree with that. And I think a lot of that is going to come down to him. And like, I think he can be a number 2, but do we either have a guard or do we obtain a guard that is the number 2 and then he kind of organically slides to the number 3 in as far as tier? And I know we're going to get to that a little bit later, but that's like kind of a situation where like right now he is the clear number 2 on this team. There's no one else. I mean, you could make a case for Wendell Carter. Some people are a little bit like more bullish on Fultz and a couple of the other guards that potentially could be like that next third guy. But in most Magic point of views, like Franz is the clear number 2. Some people say he's even right now the number 1 because despite Paolo having ungodly numbers last year, Franz was the more consistent player on both sides of the ball last year. And so there is some talk of that, but like, yeah, they're going to be a force for a long time. It's going to kind of be like the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown situation where it's like, they're awesome. There's going to be people that want to pin them against each other, but in reality, they work pretty damn well together. And yeah, there's going to be some nights where Franz has it over Paolo. Maybe most nights Paolo has it over Franz. And that's kind of the similar situation with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You know, and then like there was that year they had Kyrie Irving. And it was like, well, Jaylen Brown is the third because, you know, Kyrie's 1 or 2 here. It's like, I don't know. That's my thing. Long story less long. Yeah, Franz is the fucking man.
Simply put.
We like it.
Sorry.
No, it's all
I
good,
didn't
man.
mean to make your beat go off.
I want to ask you about Jamal Mosley because now the Magic are in a point now where it's like, all right, the future's here. Like it's time to start making moves. Like maybe playing this year, maybe playoffs this year. Is Jamal Mosley the right coach for this team? And then maybe we'll ask some questions based off of what you answer here.
No, that's a great question, man. He is the right coach for this team today. Is he the right person for this team in 5 years? You know, in 3 years when they're hoping to be like real threats in the East? I'm not sure. I think that's still up for debate for a lot of people. But is he the right coach for this team to continue the development of the younger players and build team chemistry and togetherness with how young this roster truly is. The roster did get a little bit older with the addition of Joe Ingles, but for the most part, it's still the core is still so young. Paolo and Franz are like 20 and 19 or 21 and 20, very young. You know, our oldest vets that are not Gary Harris and Joe Ingles are Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz, and they're 25. Wendell Carter Jr.'s like 24, 25, around there.
Yeah.
Like this team is so young. So Jamal Mosley was a development coach with the Dallas Mavericks for I think like 8 years or something like that. And he comes over with a development mind, togetherness. He's a very well-respected coach around the league. You know, every game that we play, there was a player that used to play for him with Dallas that comes over and they have like a 5-minute conversation. It's just, he's highly spoken about. So he's the right coach now. I think there's questions if he'll be able to coach at a high level when winning really, really matters, right?
Yeah.
But we are getting to that point now where it's like, this team can't be one of the worst teams in the East anymore, unless there's some known situation that's out of our control, like injuries again. If there's health on this team, they need to be in the play-in conversation all season.
I agree.
If not, like low playoffs, like in that, like they in between 8 and 10, 7 and 10 all year. So no question of, are they going to make the play-in? They should make the play-in. Whether they win the play-in or not, it's a different story. But they should definitely be in the play-in this year. That's the expectations we as Magic fans and media have for them. And I believe that's the expectations they put on themselves this year. Yeah, if we make the playoffs this year, and I can't wait to find out if Jamal Mosley can coach a 7-game series, and is he going to draw up the right plays? Is he going to be able to make in-game adjustments? I haven't always loved his lineups and his substitution patterns and how he utilizes players. I will say sometimes I think there's players that get cold or not in their rhythm, and he doesn't always do a great job of finding ways to get them in their rhythm.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think he's doing a really good job at developing the players and making them play together. Organically and growing as individuals and as a team.
Do you feel like the offense has to change a little bit? Because I think from what I know of the Magic, now correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a 5-out drive, not only drive and kick, but get to the paint and whatever happens from that point on. But it's 5-out, very limited pick and roll. I think you go ISO with Paolo every once in a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't really watch too much Magic, but that's the general.
No, you're
right.
Yeah, a lot of DHOs.
Yeah.
The pick and roll started getting a little bit more involved in the offense last year. The year before that, pretty much non-existing.
Yeah.
A little bit ISO here and there with Paulo, but they kind of just gave Paulo the green light to like figure out his game and have fun and do what you want.
Yeah.
I wonder if they kind of reel that in a hair this year. But I do think offense needs to change, but I think it was pretty limited to how he could change the offense simply because simply because the Magic didn't have the shooting to support a more diverse, a more diverse type of offense. We basically had just guys that could finish at the rim, excellent drivers, a handful of guys that could shoot the three like Franz, like Cole Anthony. He's got a really nice pull up from deep. We have some really smart cutters. So there's a lot of opportunities that are created with space through cutting. But I just think like, man, it would happen every couple of games, right? You'd have someone on the arc, drive into the paint, kick out, and most teams you'd kick out to an open shooter and they'd shoot the three.
Right.
No, that person would then drive in, kick out to another open shooter, and then that person would be like, oh, cool, I'm going to drive in. There's like 4 people in this paint. I'm going to attempt to make a layup or, something, and they cause a turnover and it goes back the other direction because they didn't have enough confidence. The shooters didn't have enough confidence to take the shots. I think that's going to change this year. Gary Harris, 40-something% 3-point shooter last year, and I think even the year before. I expect that to be the same this year. They brought in Joe Ingles, who's like a 41% 3-point shooter. Cole Anthony is a good catch and shoot shooter and a good pull-up shooter. He's a threat. He pulls defenses out to him. We have, Paulo and Franz are respected on the arc. They should hopefully continue to get better as shooters and better decision makers when they, in catch and shoot situations or just off the dribble and stuff like that. Wendell Carter's a decent shooter, but he's not respected enough at the line for him to draw defenses out. And he doesn't shoot a high enough volume to kind of get that. Defenses let him take that. I think where we need to see like the biggest improvement is with Jalen Suggs. This is his first healthy offseason. So there were signs last year. If you look at his numbers from like the last 35 games onward, he was shooting at like league average or higher for those remainder of games at a decent clip. And so I think if we can get some better internal development with shooting, and with the addition of with Joe Ingles, and then hopefully just some health, that should allow Coach Mosley to expand his offense into a little bit more of a 3-point shooting team, where not only we were a bottom 5 in 3-point attempts, but also a bottom 5 in 3-point percentage made
Yeah.
last year. And I think for the last 6 years.
There's a reason why
So-
you're not shooting threes, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Long story on how to answer your question about Jamal Mosley, but yeah, I do think some stuff needs to change,
Got you.
and hopefully we are getting some internal development and going to continue to add shooters like Joe Ingles and our draft pick, Chet Howard, who was an excellent shooter in college. So, they're starting to address it, which is nice.
You mentioned Cole, you mentioned Jalen Suggs, also mentioned Markelle Fultz earlier. Your backcourt, like, what are your feelings on the team's backcourt? Because I feel like that part of the team has a lot more question marks because you have one of the best young front courts in the league, like talent wise. So, who do you think is the odd man out when it comes to your backcourt?
Man, we didn't even mention Anthony Black.
Anthony Black,
he's a great floor general in college, projected to be a nice floor general, and with size, he's like 6'6" or something like that.
6'7". Yeah,
yeah.
That's a point
He's
guard.
our
That's
biggest
crazy.
guard on our team. Which is crazy. So I'm gonna include him in that. Man, I think this year it's probably gonna be Anthony Black. I think he's going to be the odd man out. I think he'll get minutes. He'll find minutes, in that second unit, probably in the 2 and the 3. There could be some lineups with Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony in that back in the second unit, with Black back there as well. And, sometimes they'll stagger Franz or Paolo, and like that'll give them opportunity to play on ball a little bit, play off ball a little bit. Our front office came out and said, we're not in the position anymore to gift our rookies minutes. So there's going to be nights where our rookies get some DMPs, and that's okay, because they do want to start prioritize winning. I think this season we see something like Fultz is the clear starter. And then it's either going to be Gary Harris, who I think is a better fit just because of his spacing that he provides. But if Jalen Suggs can get his shot up there, then I think he will take the spot of Gary Harris. And then we see Cole Anthony as like that kind of awesome 6-man that he played last year, stay there. And then, again, Gary Harris or Jalen Suggs as the 2 guard next to him. Long term, man, this team does have to make a consolidation trade. And Kwame, I believe you were like,
gotta make a
not
decision.
so much this year, but like what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. If I don't know that answer, but I would not be surprised if Cole or Suggs was included in that trade to grab someone. If all of a sudden Black is crushing it and you can really see like, damn, big body, great passer, runs the offense as good as Fultz, except he's starting to grow as a shooter, which we all know Fultz won't. Like
that makes
maybe that
expendable.
That could make Fultz a little bit expendable too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think that's a problem they're not really worried about today, though.
Okay.
I think they'll happily find some form of contract extension with Fultz when he's eligible, I think in another month. Cole, I bet they let him hit restricted free agency.
Yeah.
And I think if the right opportunity comes with the right trade package when we do, make a little bit of a consolidation move, then I feel like it's kind of more like, okay, who are we getting back that's going to complement this team better? Is this person more of like a floor space and transition player? Then cool. That means we can kind of let go of Jalen Suggs. Or, man, are we getting back, like someone that organically pushes someone else to be our 6-man? Cool. We can let go of Cole Anthony.
Got you.
I don't have a clear answer for you. But I do kind of think like, they value Fultz a little bit more. He's more polished. He does have his limitations without his shot, but he's an amazing floor general, and he's a really good defender too. His defense stepped up big time last year. Cole, he's one of our only pull-up threats from 3 off the dribble. So like, he's got his limitations defensively. He's grown as a playmaker, but he's the only guard that can shoot off the dribble from 3. It's like, I don't want to let him go.
Right.
And And Suggs, this is like really his first year coming in healthy outside of his rookie year, because he had a surgery in between freshman and sophomore year on his ankle. So, and then he missed like 20 games to start the beginning of last year with, I forget what the injury was. I don't have a great answer for you. I wish I did say, yeah, it's definitely like Jalen Suggs. He's the odd man out. But I'm like, I think it's more like we need a little bit more information, and we should get that this year with everyone coming into training camp healthy. I think about halfway through the season, we'll have a much better answer on that. Let's do a fall episode.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Sounds good. Now let's move our attention to the front court, where I think you guys are stacked. I mean, we mentioned Wagner, we mentioned Banchero, we didn't even barely talk about Wendell Carter Jr., and then you have Jonathan Isaac. Like, it's just, you have a boatload of talent there in the front court. Okeke, Mo Wagner, Franz's brothers who
fakes concussions.
Yep.
But also talented as heck.
How do you what are the expectations for everyone there? Like, obviously Wagner and Banchero take precedent over there. You get Wendell Carter in a trade for Vucevic. So and he seems to be very underrated defensively and just underrated in general. He seems to be coming into his own in Orlando. How do you split the minutes there? Who's the odd man out? Who do you want to trade? It just seems like it's a very crowded front court there in Orlando.
Yeah. First off, before I answer that, it's Wagner with a V.
Wagner.
All right.
Wagner.
Yeah. Sorry. So the front court is it's an interesting situation. We have our starters. We have Franz and Paolo. They're not going anywhere. And then we have Wendell Carter Jr., who's an excellent center. He can play a little bit of 4, a little bit of 5. He's not afraid to be in the paint. I think like the biggest question on him is like sometimes he's just not consistent with his aggressiveness to score and defend. But I think when he is on, he's like a top 10 center in the league, maybe top 12, depending on how you view someone like Anthony Davis and stuff like that. And do you put Giannis at center and stuff like that, right? So there's some questions there, but he's a really good center and his contract's insane. He's getting paid like $10 million a year and it's descending. It's quite ridiculous how valuable he is contract wise and on floor production. I think like the bigger question is like, okay, what is Chuma Okeke and Jonathan Isaac and like Chuma Okeke at this point is like, he hasn't really been much. I think if like he doesn't figure out his shot this year, like he's been a good defender. But like he was supposed to be a shooter. He shot 38% 2 years in a row, or maybe 39% 2 years in a row in college, and that just did not translate so far to the NBA. His rookie season was pretty darn solid, but he's been like injured over and over again, and he's hardly on the floor. I think this is like a prove it year, and if he doesn't work out, he's not on the Magic much longer. Like he'll either be included in a trade as salary filler, or we probably just won't re-sign him next year when he goes into restricted free agency, or we'll re-sign him for like a very minimal contract. He just kind of has to prove that he can stay healthy and start hitting some shots, in my opinion. So I don't really value him as like core with this team. Jonathan Isaac, on the other hand, he's like, when he is healthy, he can be an amazing defender, one of the best defenders in the league. The problem is he's never healthy. He's played 11 games in 3 years, right? Apparently he's had an amazing offseason. I think he's kind of like free money for us right now. Granted, we're paying him $17 million a year, but he's only owed $7 million after January 7th. So if he gets injured again, we can cut him for basically $7 million, and his next year on contract is non-guaranteed. So we can either use him as trade in a trade for a team that wants to get under the salary cap, or have more cap flexibility with that $7 million only guaranteed up till I think it's January 10th, or something like that. In the following year he's basically an expiring contract this season. So he's either going to produce and be like, cool, you're doing well, let's keep you on. You're a hidden gem, because he's like 7 foot, amazing defender on the wing and in the paint. And was starting to be a decent shooter. He's just kind of like a bonus at this point. But ultimately, I think there's still some depth there that needs to be shored up. Like, I don't see Goga or even Mo Wagner as as more than fillers for 1 or 2 more years. I do think there needs to be some more depth behind us. Joe Ingles, like, he's pretty much a power forward nowadays, but dude, he's like 35, 36. He's only here for another season or 2.
Vibes.
If he even survives.
Vibes.
Yeah, dude, he's great. I love the addition of Joe. Don't get me
Disney
wrong.
World, come and shoot some threes with the left hand.
I was dude, he is one of my favorite free
I
agents
love
signings we've ever had. All right.
Yeah, I love Joe Ingles. He's one of my favorite players in the league.
But yeah, man, I don't think there's actually that many decisions to make. I think it's more or less like, is Jonathan Isaac healthy? Can Chuma Okeke shoot? And if not, the answer is no to both those questions, cool. We need more depth there, if anything. Mo Wagner and Goga Bitadze, like, to me, I view them both as like high-end third string centers. Goga is like kind of young. He's like, I think 23, 24. So and he didn't really get a fair shot with
Pacers.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, like, maybe there's some room for him to grow as a better second unit player. Mo Wagner can't defend a wing player, and people shoot better than their normal average when he's guarding them in the paint.
Right.
So, like, he's kind of like too slow to guard 4s and not good enough and the paint defense to guard 5s.
He's also a little crazy as well, just like his brother.
Yeah. And we needed a little crazy, guys. We needed a little crazy.
You need a little bit. I'm telling you.
For too many years, all right? So I'm fine with the craziness. We got Joe Ingles, who's a great shit talker.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
So, you know, if anything, we need more clarity on who can do their job. And then if when we get that clarity, we might need better depth, to be honest with you. But again, should be good for this year.
Is there a realistic trade, or like a player that you think is possible for the team to get and would make a huge difference? That's a tough question to ask, because it's like basically playing fantasy.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I mean,
he's not leaving. He's not leaving
right now, but in 2 years, maybe. You know, honestly, I do think, like, you know, if Devin Booker was available this summer not Devin Booker, if Donovan Mitchell, like that type of player, was available this summer than last summer, I think we probably would have made a move for a player like that.
Gotcha.
But right now, the star players that are kind of available, and I do think that's what they're looking for. I don't think they're going to go make a swing for a fringe all-star that's never going to make all-star type situations. I do think they're looking for someone, that third true star in the guard position. And that's when I think, cool, we have 2 extra first-round picks. We have all of our own first-round picks. We have a bazillion second-round picks, and we have a ton of young players and a ton of salaries between like $8 and $12 million that we can throw and do some salary matching, throw a bunch of picks and bring someone back. I do think we're looking for like a guard type to come in and be that 2, that 2, 1, 2, somewhere around there. Depends on who it is. But I also think like they are going to be a little picky. They're not after Dame. Sure, we could throw a better package in Miami. We absolutely could, but he doesn't fit our timeline. He's too old. You know, as good as this team is, we're not really going to be trying to win titles for at least another 2 years, right? In my opinion. So they need to find someone who's like probably today sub 30, that's maybe made an all-star or thinking about making, or, potentially might make one in the near future. I don't know who that player is though.
Right.
God, I would love if Jamal Murray was available.
Got you.
Give me that.
Yeah.
I would love if Devin Booker was available. He's not, but give me that kind of player.
Donovan's realistic. I mean, realistic in the sense where like he might be available.
Donovan Mitchell. If things go south there or something like that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I just, man, I don't know what kind of star players you think are going to be shaken. I mean, legit though, if Giannis is available in 2 years, like who was I listening to? The Sam Vincini podcast the other day, and they actually brought up the Magic as like someone who they think like, in the next year potentially could be a really aggressive. I think that's still
it's interesting because like Grant Hill, like T-Mac back in the day, like Orlando was seen as possibly like a free agent destination, and even Tim Duncan. A lot of people don't know this, but Tim Duncan was almost a member of the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
Doc
that,
Rivers.
yeah,
Freaking
that
Doc
close.
Rivers.
So
I don't want to talk about that, guys.
it's not really looked at it like in that way. But
Rashard Lewis, he was a big signing for us
I mean,
too.
like you live in a state that doesn't have any like federal income tax. It's the weather's beautiful. Disney's right there if you have kids. So like there's a lot of things going for the city of Orlando in general.
Miami.
And so I feel like it's a low key sleeper destination for free agents, possibly, especially if the team starts to like show like, hey, we're pretty freaking good. Like if you join us, we could probably win a title. It wouldn't surprise me if Orlando all of a sudden becomes like this free agent destination.
There's players that will play here for like 1 year and they'll leave their house and then they come and just spend like, all their off seasons there. Or like if they have families, that's where like they keep them. Like Etwan Moore still has a house. But one thing is he had that not when he was on our team 3 years ago, but 10 years ago when he was on our team, he kept that house, Evan Fournier, Vooch, they've all kept their house here.
Wow.
Terrence Ross, he still has his house here. JJ Redick, I think, still has a house here. Shaq, like everyone still has a house here. It's ridiculous. So I think Patrick Ewing still lives in Orlando at sometimes. It's insane.
Yeah.
So long story less long, man. I don't know who's going to shake loose, but like the type of guy we're looking for is probably a nice wing guard that can play like the 2-3-1. And that's a little bit closer to our timeline. Like, God, if Paul George was like 3-4 years younger, I would love to have a Paul George on this team.
The timelines are a little off.
He's a little, I don't know, man. Like if he would, I wouldn't hate if Paul George was available right now. How old is he? How old is Paul George?
Is
he old though?
He's 47 years old.
God.
And
he
PG still bucket out.
Does his podcast out of Los Angeles. I don't know if he's moving across the country right now. I think he's moving.
Man, if you put PG on that team, that's
but you have like 1 or 2 years with PG, and then he's hurt constantly.
He's 33.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But
I get what you're saying. The timelines are kind of weird right now. They're definitely a little weird. All right.
Yeah. But I think some people will shake loose and we'll snag someone good. And then all you guys will be like, damn, the Orlando Magic. You guys are really good. Not just kind of good in theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I want to ask you what your prediction for this season is going to be. Let's just assume everybody's healthy going into the season. Is this a play-in team? What seed do they finish? Let me hear your prediction.
Yeah, man. So my prediction is like we won 35 games last year after starting 5-20. If this team even has like average health with their roster, I think they're roughly between. I really respect the NBA and other teams too.
Yeah.
So I say this with a little bit of like, respect to them. I think they're like a 39 to like 44, 45 win team. Somewhere right around 500, right in that window of range. And I think that puts them mostly just because I think more teams got more competitive, right? And there's less teams tanking this year. I think the only tanking teams are going to probably be like Charlotte and maybe Detroit again. I don't know.
I mean, even Detroit, you can make an argument. Yeah, they might not.
There's not very many teams tanking, so I would want them to be pretty comfortably around like the 8th, 9th spot, and that's where I think is pretty realistic. If injuries happen to certain teams and like chemistry's off with like Atlanta, maybe they could catch Atlanta. Maybe they could catch. God, hold on. I think they should, before I go too deep and like give you a 5-minute answer, they should probably win roughly around 500.
There we go.
Win with a 500 record,
give or take.
With a solid 8th to 9th in the seed and in the playoff race, making the play-in comfortably.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much where I would have them as well. All right, so we're gonna end this show playing a game that we like to call Magic or Magic.
Yes.
This is where I'm going to name a list of 2024 free agents, and you're going to say Magic, whether you would like to pass on them like Magic Johnson, or Magic, if you would like to add them to Orlando Magic. So this is going to be very hard for you to answer. Let's get started with the first free agent, former Orlando Magic, Tobias Harris. Magic or Magic?
Magic,
yeah.
We could use some depth.
Okay.
We could use some depth.
So you're not like down on his play in Philadelphia. You're not worried about that.
Because he'd come in here and be like a backup. He's playing behind Paolo and Franz, so I would love him there if we could get him on a reasonable contract.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe force Franz to the 3 a little, or to the 2, and you got a really big lineup with Paolo, Franz, and Harris. Come on, let's
make it happen. Bring Tobias back to Orlando, baby. He probably still has a house. He still has a house in Orlando.
Probably, yeah. I'm about to say, probably has a house there. Yeah.
All right, second player, OG Anunoby, Magic or Magic?
Magic.
Magic, yeah. Magic for sure.
I like OG. I really do like him, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You're too deep in the front court.
Too deep. I think he's gonna be fucking sorry. He's gonna be very expensive. He's gonna be very expensive. And I think there's just gonna be a bidding war for him. And I just feel like, he's the type of player you want. He's a good shooter from 3. He's a good 2-way player. Yeah. God, now I'm talking myself back into him. Magic.
He could play at the 2 for you guys.
He can play at the 2. Let's go. I'm going to Magic.
You're gonna have like a 6'8" point guard, a 6'9" 2, a 6'10".
That's fire.
Let's go.
We're
bringing size back to the NBA. Forget small ball.
All right, Magic or Magic? DeMar DeRozan.
I love DeMar, but Magic.
Yeah, Magic for sure.
He doesn't help the spacing at all.
Yeah.
But he's one of my all-time favorite players in the league. I absolutely love DeMar, but it hurts my soul to say Magic. Kind of not on the same timeline too. A little too old.
Yeah. I get it. All right, Magic or Magic? Jonas Valanciunas.
Magic. I'd rather have Wendell Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I would have said Magic as well for sure. Quad, would you have said Magic? You would have said Magic.
Magic.
Okay.
Can I pause for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
You asked player to potentially target Zach LaVine if they blow it up as a trade.
Oh.
I know he's got some injury history there, and his contract is kind of like large and in charge, but he's a bucket, dude. He's a bucket. That is someone who some Magic fans might not agree with me, but like I would take a risk on it. Like he's damn good. Sorry. Okay.
No, he's also as a Nets fan, he's also a player like I would love on my team also. Just as a 2. Like he's explosive scorer.
Yeah.
As a Knicks fan, I want nothing to do with him, but it has more to do with our makeup of the team than him himself. If that makes any sense.
Understand.
Hating.
All right, Magic or Magic? Malik Monk.
Magic.
Yeah, Magic. Yeah. I would say Magic. I would say Magic.
Some good shooter. Dude, I was so high. Dude, I thought he was going to be like multi-time all-star in the draft. I was so high on him that year, and he's a good player. He's had some nice moments.
The problem is that he ended up on the Hornets, and they wanted him to be a backup point guard, and then like also heroin. But that's a whole
yeah, that too.
Back to that.
All right, we got 2 more names for you: Buddy Hield, Magic or Magic?
Magic. We need shooting. We're the best shooters ever. Let's go, Magic.
I think he would fit your team perfectly, the shooting. We just talked about it on the first half of the show where you would need that. He probably fits that perfectly for sure.
I'm already trying to figure out how to trade for him now.
Yeah. So that's an emphatic Magic. Definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
I love Buddy. Even though we have no idea how old he is, but that's okay.
That is true. How old is Buddy Hield? Oh my god!
Because he was like, as a senior, whatever he was in college, he was pretty old in college too.
Yeah, he's probably.
He could be 40. He could be 30. 40. He could be 25.
We don't know. And I'm not even going to do it. I don't want to know. I want it to be a mystery for the rest of my life. All right. Last but not least, this is just kind of, we talk about him all the time on the podcast, so I want to throw him in there, and he's a 2024 free agent. Magic or Magic? James Harden.
Magic.
Yeah.
Come back to Magic City, James. Come back to Magic
City. Magic City's the answer.
Not the Magic Kingdom.
You don't have to say anything more, man. We totally get it. We totally get it over here. Stephen Cameron, everybody, give it up. The Close Up Magic podcast. Thanks for joining us, man. It's always a good time when you're on. I'll let everybody know where they can follow you, where they can find your pod, anything you want to plug.
Yeah, so you can follow me if you want to be bombarded with basketball and non-basketball posts on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it, at Steven with a PH 0610. Or if you only want to know Magic content, go to on X or Twitter, The Close Up Magic, and on YouTube it's at The Close Up Magic. We're on Instagram. I never post there though, but it's also find us there too.
All right. If you want to follow Dime, you can on all social media platforms at the Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. He's Quab at Quab, aka Yes. We'll see you next week for another episode of The Dime.